Got it. All right. Awesome. Well, we are here today, Dave, to talk about purpose. Um,
Yes.
well, I know everyone wants to find their purpose in life. I think that's something that's been drilled into us since we were little kids. What are you going to be when you grow up? What's your purpose? Blah 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 blah. But oftentimes we can get caught up in the details of our daily life, and we can't then see the big picture.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Uh, it's so frantic in our life that we miss the big picture. So, anyway, what are some of the ways that we become more enlightened? This big picture, life's purpose, and so on. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we've been digging into this in our book, The Graduate Project. So I wanted to highlight two main strategies that we found helpful. So the first strategy is investing time into your spiritual connection. That's the one way that you can start to develop your purpose or understand what your purpose might be. The second way is brainstorming your likes, the world's needs, and skills that you have to maybe fill that need, and finding a connection point between all of those three things: likes, needs, and skills.
Yeah, I think those are all great. As far as I want to expand on all of those. When it comes to that first strategy, as far as spirituality, we've kind of got a Christian background here. The triune God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is our higher power. But a lot of the studies that I've been researching, it's not just from a Christian's perspective, but it's having that higher power, something outside of yourself. It's amazing how much more purposeful and hopeful your life is as a result of that, and it's scientifically based. It's been proven. So
Mm.
anyway, what are some of your suggestions that you have for people who might have a different belief or are even unsure about this whole higher power thing?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to, reiterate what you said, that I believe I have a Christian background, and I believe that God simply wants a loving relationship with each and every one of us, regardless of our horrendous past, because
Right.
I sure don't have a perfect past. And
None of us do.
exactly. And that brings me a lot of comfort and strength, because I know I'm the farthest thing from perfect, but God still loves me, and he sees this beauty in my future that I usually can't see. And so what I've come to understand about having a spiritual connection, and what I understand from God, is that his purpose for us is to love others to our fullest ability. That is his purpose for us, is just this idea of love your neighbor, love your friends, love your enemies, just love. And I actually recently just watched a movie called The Shack. And for me, it was deeply moving. And if you haven't seen it and you want some answers as to why God, quote unquote, allows bad things to happen to good people, I felt like this was a really wonderful story that broke it down in not necessarily a religious perspective. It definitely had, people going to church and Bible and stuff like that in the beginning and the end of the movie. But the meat of the movie, the middle part of the movie, and I don't want to ruin the movie for anyone, but the middle part of the movie really helps to break down this idea of a 3-in-1 God. And it really humanizes it and makes it in a way that it's really understandable. So even if you don't believe in Christianity and you just want a deeper understanding as to why people believe certain things, and why you see so many Christians all over the place, saying this and saying that, I really think this movie is a great starting place to answers in a way that anybody, no matter what your religious perspective, can understand it a little bit better. So I thought that is a really great resource. And I won't dig too much into this, but if anyone is interested in learning more about God's purpose and maybe this Trinity idea, you're like, what on earth, three gods in one? That makes absolutely no sense. Totally understandable, but watch The Shack on Netflix. I actually watched it like 2 nights ago and thought it was such a wonderful resource. But let's step away from this religious spiritual connection. There are also a lot of non-religious ways to invest in your spiritual relationship. Some of those strategies are meditation and journaling. There are a lot of experts and many of our guests that have come on the Power Adulting podcast. They've shared this importance of meditation. They come from all backgrounds and have shared lots and lots of benefits that meditation can bring. Some of those benefits are reducing stress, controlling anxiety, promoting your emotional health, improving your self-awareness, and so much more. And journaling is kind of an extra layer there where you can take what's in your head. If it's you've been meditating for 10 minutes and you have, ideas percolating in your head, things that come up, or if you're just, have a really active mind that likes to have a lot of chatter in it and you're like, oh my gosh, my mind won't shut up. Journaling is a great way to get what's in your head out on paper. And there have been healing benefits, as well as it helps you to enable this clarity of the mind. So I think those are the main areas for that spiritual connection. You can either start with trying to build a relationship with God, or you can go more the approach of developing your meditation skills and your journaling skills. Both are excellent ways to start developing that spiritual connection, and answers will come eventually if you start to put in the work.
Yeah, and it's not just either or. It can be a combination. The Bible talks all the time about meditating on God's word and letting him speak to you through that. But I don't know if you're aware, but again, the research that I have been doing for the graduate project, our book is meditation helps you find your purpose also. They couldn't quite figure out in the study that they did on it whether it was the focusing on the purpose or the meditation that made it happen. But, either or, as long as you come to a stronger purpose in life, and meditation helps in that process to think it through, it's very important. And the journaling, scientifically putting pen to paper, I've never heard anybody talk about this before, but this research study talked about taking especially your negative emotions and putting them on paper diminishes them significantly for you. Scientifically, it's proven that by journaling, it helps you deal with those negative issues that happen in life. So anyway, those are all great. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, but you had a second strategy, I believe, that we wanted to talk about, unless you wanted to add something here.
No, let's dive into the second strategy. That first strategy was developing your spiritual connection. This second strategy, though, really focuses more on digging into yourself, because our purpose is a combination of many things that make us unique. Similar to fingerprints, no two people are the same. And so discovering your purpose really requires a deep dive into your likes, your skills, and the world's needs. What needs are there around you? Maybe in your family, in your community, in your city, in the greater world, all those things. So to figure out where you lie in the middle of these things, likes, skills, and the world's needs, you can start by actually creating a Venn diagram. I remember we did this in elementary school. It's the big circles. And so a Venn diagram, you can create 3 different circles. And in one of the circles, you'll write down your likes. In another circle, you'll write down your skills. And in the third circle, you'll write down, needs in the world that you believe you could help solve. So this type of exercise requires you to think really big picture, instead of focusing on the details of your less than perfect life. I feel like most of us, feel like our life is less than perfect. And so we want to get it to perfection, but imperfect is totally perfect, totally fine. And so after you do this brainstorming, you want to use your creativity to figure out where they all connect, how they link. And this may come easy for some people. This may be a lot more challenging for others, but you have to allow yourself the time to have these ideas percolate in your mind. This may take hours, this may take days, or even weeks, because answers don't always come immediately. Sometimes answers show up at the most random times, like right when you're about to fall asleep, or when you've been meditating, or you're out on a walk, on a hike, and some idea comes to you. But by starting this process and writing down your likes, your skills and the world's needs, you can start to brainstorm, what could I possibly be destined for? What should I pursue as my purpose? So you want to plant the seeds in this brainstorming ideas, and you'll watch these cool new ideas grow. And meditation is an excellent tool in this process. I know meditation is really challenging, but it is a wonderful way to, sit in silence with your thoughts after you've done this activity and just let it all percolate and see kind of what comes out.
Yeah, it's that percolates is just kind of I think of the smell of coffee as it's percolating, and I just think of the brilliance that's percolating in our brain. So anyway, that is all a great. I didn't realize that in third grade they teach that Venn diagram, because I'd seen studies about it by a Stanford University was kind of pulling this, really highfalutin stuff together, and here you'd learned it in third grade. So.
Anything like the 3 circles. I think typically when you're younger, you use the 2-circle Venn diagram, where it's like what contrasting versus similarities in the middle, but it's the same concept. We just add one extra dimension there, because purpose really can come from both a spiritual connection as well as simply finding where those likes, needs, and skills all come together.
Yeah, it's what every entrepreneur looks at when they're looking to start a business is, what I like to do, what I'm skilled at, and then also what the world actually needs. Because, if you only do 2 out of the 3, you're going to fail. And so developing a purpose is something that's important enough to really spend the time with that. So anyway, I think we've kind of dug into that beautifully. I just wanted to talk about the book for a minute. I don't know what else I can add other than this book is coming together with all sorts of research on all of these subjects. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about self-awareness. We've talked about passion. Now you take those passions that you have and develop it into that Venn diagram for your purpose. These are all the beginning points. Next, we'll talk about how we incorporate those into our lives. The graduate project digs into health, relationship, career, money, and so on. So once you've got your head together, you've got your awareness, and then your heart is in it with your passion and your purpose, you can start digging into growth and improvement in all of these other important areas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a process and a journey. And I think we need to remember that life is about this journey. Life is about the ups and downs. We all want to get to this final destination where we're in this just sense of, we've made it. But really, life is about this journey of finding yourself, finding how you can impact the world. And that takes a lot of effort, and that takes a lot of digging into. And we really aren't taught much about this in school. They kind of just, want you to follow the status quo, everybody do the same thing, but we're so not the same. We are so individual, and everybody has different interests and passions. Everybody can impact the world differently. 2 different artists who both have this passion for art can show or demonstrate whatever it is that they're trying to create in completely different ways. If somebody's trying to paint an apple, one person may use watercolor, one may use acrylic paint, one may use clay, one may use, recycled goods. Art, I think life is an art, and being willing to take those risks and be an artist who's unafraid to be authentically themselves, whatever that might be. I think it's a challenge, but it is a worthwhile journey that each one of us should embark on, and hopefully have started embarking on, because it's not about the destination. It's about this journey and what you can learn along the way.
Yeah, and if you can take that attitude of, I'm just kind of working through it, we're finding our way, and so on. But the end result is that hopefulness and happiness are kind of the end results of these, if you're working through the process. So anyway, I'm going to have to watch that movie, The Shack, and that sounds interesting to bring in that spiritual dimension, because I think that's extremely important. It's hard to figure these things out on your own. Whereas if you have the outside viewpoint things are a whole lot easier when God's kind of directing you as to, what's your direction for your life and kind of guiding you through that process. And I'm all into making life easier rather than making it hard and stressful and traumatic and all. So,
and God doesn't promise it'll be easy, right? We weren't promised that it'll be easy, but we do have the promise that the comfort and love will be there indefinitely. And so although we're going to face hurdles, we're going to face challenges, knowing that you do have that infinite love, that love that will never cease, is definitely so comforting, especially in your deepest, darkest places.
yeah, he doesn't take away all of the problems, but
No.
he's there with you to work through those problems. I think that's well said. So, anyway, anything else you want to add?
I think we dug into purpose here. So I think we've gotten a good deep dive here in just a couple minutes.
I think so. All right. Well, until next week, better your best you, everyone.